Thank you for tuning into the GSMC Soccer Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Sports Network. We have a great show for you today. We will be covering Manchester United, expectations for Manchester United entering next season. We'll discuss Manchester City and whether or not any team could knock them off and potentially win the Premier League this upcoming season. We'll talk about the U.S. men's Olympic soccer team and what are some realistic expectations for them and whether or not that they can medal at the Summer Olympic Games. We'll discuss some realistic expectations for Liverpool entering this following season. And make sure you stick around for the end of the show, where I'll be giving you some of my top headlines going on just in the world of football. Before we start off, I'd like to ask that you like and follow the show. Also, we get a number of questions that come in during the show. So to ensure that your questions get read on the air, I ask that you use the tips and donations link with your with your questions. This puts your question at the top of the list so that I can see it, and it also really helps grow the show. So again, the link is gsmcpodcast.net. We have to start off with what can we expect, some realistic expectations for Manchester United entering the season. Obviously, we know Manchester United were coming off a terrific end to last season in the fact that they won the FA Cup in their last game of the season. But overall, through the majority of their season, they're coming off a very, very disappointing season. There was big question marks on whether or not Erik ten Hag will stay on as manager. Not that he was leaving, but there was a lot of rumors that he could potentially be fired, and it was very, very interesting in the fact that it took Manchester United a very, very long time to come to the conclusion that they wanted to stay with him. They also, I believe, they did a whole end the season review, and they also in that time were rumored to contact some other managers, and it was clear that it was a very difficult decision that they came to, but they eventually they came to the decision, and they stayed on with Erik ten Hag through this following season, diminished certain aspects of his role that he had amongst the team, as it was expected. Some of the transfers that he wanted didn't really go through like he would expect, specifically talking about the players of Amrabat, Mason Mount, Anthony. That was the big one, Anthony. So it was clear that there was an issue there, and it's an interesting point of view United find themselves in right now, perspective. Because United, it's always, there's always a recycle that they've been in since Ferguson left so many years ago. It's always been a new cycle, and each new and upcoming year, it seems like the cycle restart. There's a new restart to the cycle every couple of years, and they're never able to take that next level. They go through 3-4 different reboots since Sir Alex Ferguson, and none of them seem to work. None of them seem to get to that next point. It didn't work under Sir Alex Ferguson, David Moyes, Jose Mourinho. There was a little bit good signs at the beginning, but we know how that ended up. And then Ole Gunnar Solskjaer was another cycle, and then that restarted. And then now Ten Hag was another cycle, and it came off to start it off a good start, and they go all the way back down. Now, injuries has a lot to do with it. Man, they suffered a lot from injuries in crucial positions, especially the center half position. There was times that they were playing Casemiro as center back next to Johnny Evans, that's already not just old, but he was injured too. There was situations where they were playing unfit center backs like Johnny Evans alongside Casemiro because they just were desperate. They had no options. Injuries hit them left and right. A really, really bad injury bug. There's no two ways about it. But the performances were really, really bad. Even despite those injuries, the performances in certain games were really, really bad, and they had no identity, no style of play. We see the free-flowing type of football that Ajax played under Erik ten Hag, and you don't see any of that at Manchester United. You see a very boring, dull team to watch that lack any cutting edge and that lack any run as sustained form. Like, I remember the Chelsea game where they dominated it in and out and created so many chances. But apart from that, there was not much performances like that. There was not. They struggled against teams that, played a lower block. They struggled with the creativity of being able to break them down. And then with the better teams, they just struggled to keep up with them quality-wise. The other teams just used their quality better than them when it came to the better teams, the Manchester Cities, the Liverpools, and all that. And it was poor to watch. Their Champions League campaign, extremely poor in the fact that, look, you can't get out of a group with Galatasaray and Copenhagen. Yes, I understand Bayern Munich. That's a difficult team. That's a difficult opponent. Even though that was a weaker Bayern team. Let's just be real. But I understand more difficult opponent. Okay, but you still find yourself in a place that you're only needing to beat Galatasaray and Copenhagen. These are teams that Manchester United, they have more quality than those two. There's no arguing it. Even with the injury bug that they went to, in terms of quality, United has more quality than these two teams. And there's no excuse for Erik ten Hag for not being able to get to that group stage. In fact, Copenhagen will find themselves in a position that they could have made it easier for them. They ended up missing a penalty at Old Trafford that could have gave them the win. In the Old Trafford game, I mean, Man United, in their Champions League campaign, they were a disgrace. They really were a disgrace, and they deservedly were knocked out of the Champions League because they didn't perform to the level. The quality was not there. They went to Galatasaray, and the pressure got to the players, and they didn't perform anywhere near on the pitch. They made rash mistakes. Rashford had got a rash red card, and it was just individual moments of just bad moments, and again, it got to them. And then Erik ten Hag, always making excuses after the game. Not even just in the Champions League campaign. I'm talking about throughout the season, discussing refereeing mistakes, talking about how their performance wasn't that bad, the result was worse. Just excuse after excuse after excuse after excuse, and it was really frustrating, not just for me, but a Manchester United fan to see. But they do have that caveat of, despite that horrible season and some low moments throughout the season, there's the caveat that they finished the season remarkably in winning the FA Cup final and beating Manchester City to do it, and taking away a title from them and giving it to them. And also, that win also put them in the FA Cup, which is another opportunity for them that they'll have this season to reach the Champions League if they're not able to do it through the league campaign. And they actually stripped away Chelsea's opportunity to have that to have that backup to reach the Champions League, because Chelsea were going to make the Europa League as the 6th place team. But if the FA Cup winner is not one of those Champions League or Europa League spots, you take away that 6th place Europa League spot and you give it away to they give it to the FA Cup winner. And that happened to me, Manchester United. It's unfortunate for Chelsea, but it's how it works. You get rewarded for winning titles, and that's what happened. So United, it was a good end or a good final game to the season. Not a good end, but it was a good final end to the season, and that's a big win for them. And it allows them to enter in this Premier League season with a little bit of confidence on the back of being an FA Cup winner. You got players now that have won the trophy, but again, Marcus Rashford, that's going to be a main determining factor on how United play. Marcus Rashford has his dips and have his downs, and they kind of follow the way Manchester United are doing. When Manchester United are at their best, Marcus Rashford is at his best, scoring goals and just being a dominant player. When Manchester United is, bad, Marcus Rashford goes down with them, and he's had a horrible season. He had a great first season at United for Ten Hag, scoring goals left and right, just being a dominant tweaker throughout the season. The second season, he's an absolute disgrace. He was a disgrace, and he has these up and downs and up and downs and up and downs that he's had his entire career. So that's a bigger discussion to have with Marcus Rashford, and the fact that he's just an inconsistent player. But the way the law works, the way his career has gone so far, it's bound for this season to be a successful one for Marcus Rashford. And if he's able to be that dominant winger that he can be when he's confident, then that'll be a big factor for Ten Hag, for United. It allows them to attack in multiple different ways. And Rashford, Marcus Rashford, when he is confident, he's a quality player. It's hard to stop him running at the defense. He's vertical. He has a good nature around goal. He's a brilliant finisher. He has that poacher. He's kind of like a poacher. He's always at the right places at the right times when he's like on form. But when he's not on form, he looks like a shell of himself. He's unconfident. Even his passes, the way his passes come off, just look unconfident. And he's a really bad player. And he whenever he's not in form, so that is gonna have a lot to determine with how United do. I think overall, in general, I think the injuries, all these injuries, if they're able to go down next season, I think that'll help Ten Hag. And they need to find a way to build off the momentum that they had that first season. Get back to what they were doing that first season under Erik Ten Hag. Some of those players that were having a brilliant season in Ten Hag's first season, like Casemiro, like Lisandro Martinez, who was, the only reason why he didn't have a brilliant season this season round is because he was injured. But those sort of players, they need to get back to it. And you always think you're way farther than what it is. I think, the likes of Lisandro Martinez coming back, and either Casemiro or Rashford, getting back to their first season Erik Ten Hag form. I think those little things can make a big difference, because you're never really as far as you think. So I think United will have a slightly better season than they did last season. But I think there's still a mentality issue with some of these players. There is. Like Bruno Fernandes, his whinging, his whining, his crying. That's still an issue that Manchester United have, and I don't think this is a United team that have anywhere near the quality or ability to compete with the likes of Manchester City. They'll be nowhere near that title race. But I think they'll have a steady progression from last season. I mean, they're bound to. I mean, you can't get much worse from last season, and with the players coming back. But yeah, I think realistic expectation for them is to make the top four. That's what I said for Chelsea last season. You want progression and you want to be in the Champions League. I think with the squad that United have right now, Champions League is a realistic expectation. But you're not really expecting far much other than that. You're really not. Short break here coming up. When we come back, we'll talk about Manchester City.
I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind? Please, Lord, give me a sign, a sign. I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind? Please, Lord, give me a sign, a sign.
I wanna be the greatest. Everybody on the fake shit. I look around and feel like everybody is the fakest. I make this every day and I'm impatient, hoping one day I blow up from the basement. Statement, the top is so vacant. I don't hear shit that I think is amazing. Waiting for my day when I'm playing sold out shows for 1,000 faces. Hey, give me that crown, get in my way and to be put down. It ain't your place, all this my town. If I want that shit, then I'll get it right now. I'm losing it, the noose it fits, some losing shit, a stupid myth. You choose to live or choose to dip, you choose to fight or lose your grip and lose a gift.
I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind? Please, Lord, give me a sign, a sign. I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind?
Before the break, we talked about what we can expect from Manchester United this season. We move on to talk about any team. Can any team knock off Manchester City to win the Premier League? And I'll tell you what, Manchester United are most definitely not that team to knock them off. I'll tell you that right now. Manchester United are most definitely not that team. But going back to the point that I was making, now Manchester City, they find themselves in which they have won the 5 out of the last 6 Premier Leagues, and they have won a whopping, a ridiculous, and they have won a ridiculous 4 Premier Leagues in a row, and they've won 6 out of the last 7 Premier Leagues. I repeat, 6 out of the last 6 out of the last 7. That's unbelievable. Since the 2011-12 season, I add 2011-12 season. Yeah, in the 2011-12 season, they won, let's count it, 23-24, 1, 22-23, 21-22, 20-21, 18-19, 17-18, 13-14, and 11. They won 8 Premier Leagues in the last 11 campaigns. That's... No, 13. They won 8 Premier Leagues in the last 13 years. That's insane. It's almost getting to Bundesliga level, the dominance that they've had since these new owners came in with the ridiculous amount of money that they've been able to spend. Whether it's legal or illegal, they have not been charged with anything. So, ridiculous sort of success that this new ownership group has had. And for me, it's quite unbelievable that the Premier League has allowed this. And it's really sad because you don't want to look at the Premier League and talk about, you don't want to look at the Premier League and look at them as a Bundesliga, that's not what, that's really not what I'm trying to do right now. That's really not what I'm trying to watch. We're trying to watch, title, and the thing is too, some of the title races have gone down to the wire. Liverpool went down twice to the wire. Arsenal was able to bring it to the final game once, but this was past season, but you're watching it and you always know that City are just going to be able to get it over the line. And it's just so frustrating to watch. Can any team knock them out? Because you don't want to see this sort of level of dominance in the Premier League. The Premier League is a sort of league that you want to see one team win in 1 year, the other team wins in 1 year. And that's what they were for a lot of, for a very long time. Especially in between the, Sir Alex Ferguson United dominant team to this Manchester City team. You had Chelsea winning here and there. You had Chelsea win it here and there. You had City win it. This is, in between the Pep Guardiola. I'm between the Pep Guardiola team and the Sir Alex Ferguson team. You had Chelsea win it. You had City win it. You had the Arsenal Invincibles. That was kind of in Sir Alex Ferguson time. But still, it wasn't as dominant as it is right now. 6 out of the last 7. That's not Premier League. That's not the Premier League. That's not the Premier League. 6 out of the last 7 is not the Premier League. And we talk about this rivalry Liverpool and City has. One team has in this era has 6 Premier Leagues. The other team has 1. But that's not what we're here to discuss. We're not here to talk about the dominance of Manchester City. We're talking about if any team has a chance to knock off and win the Premier League this upcoming season. I'll say this. If Guardiola announces that he will be leaving Manchester City, forget about it. I think the only thing that can derail Manchester City, a team with this sort of quality, a team with this sort of depth, is a lack of motivation. And not saying this team will be not motivated, but game in, game out, in another 38-game season to win a Premier League, you've already won 6 times. It will be a little bit more difficult to get up for each training session and each, walkthrough and each meeting, and maybe those little slip up and little cracks of lack of concentration, lack of focus, maybe could get to them in crucial moments that could potentially cost them. But if Guardiola announces that he's staying, that he's leaving, that all goes away because, there's a narrative now of we want to win this one for Guardiola. Let's send them off on a high note. I think it gives them an unbelievable amount of extra motivation, not only to go on and win the Premier League as they have all the time, but to also win a potential second Champions League. And maybe even you do a second treble campaign, which is something that, I don't believe, I don't believe there's been a set team. I know there's teams that have won multiple trebles before, but I don't know if there's a team, a dynasty, a period where they've won 2 trebles. I don't, maybe I'm mistaken. I don't think the Real Madrid team that won the 3-time Champions League, I don't think they won the treble multiple times. Did they even win the treble once? I don't know. Maybe not. I don't know. But wouldn't that be an unbelievable achievement for Pep Guardiola and Manchester City? It would be. For me, it would be an unbelievable achievement. So, yeah, I think there will be that extra motivation if he announces that he will be leaving. But just in general, can any team knock them off? Okay, well, let's just go through the teams. I mean, let's just go through the biggest contenders, which is Arsenal, and that's about it. I mean, I can't think much about Arsenal other than Arsenal. United, are they going to be able to take that next step all the way up there? Absolutely not. Tottenham, let's be realistic. Chelsea, can they take that step? I mean, maybe they have the quality, but this is a new manager coming in, and no, there's no chance that Chelsea can go take that step of winning the Premier League. Maybe they can, I think maybe they can get into the top 4, maybe be comfortable in there, but that's about it. Liverpool, I mean, with them having a new manager coming in, and you saw that there were slip-ups last season, and that they were in the title race for a little bit, but for a good amount of the season, but you can tell that they were hanging on by a thread, and now with Jurgen Klopp leaving, which I believe, I think Jurgen Klopp was a manager at Liverpool that really allowed them to punch above their weight, because they didn't spend the amount of money that a Manchester City spent, or even United or Chelsea, but they had that brilliant manager with a brilliant system, and that got the best out of the players that he had, and was able to maximize the potential of his players and really getting to play top football. Now, look, Arne Slot, he might be a good manager. I might not. I don't know, exactly how this is going to work out. But to think that he can have a Jurgen Klopp-like impact at Liverpool is very irresponsible, because Jurgen Klopp, made Liverpool better than the sum of their parts, and he had them punching way above their weight. And the fact that Liverpool won the Champions League, with the amount of money that Liverpool spent under this Fenway ownership group, they should be nowhere near the likes of competing for a Champions League. They went to back-to-back Champions League final. They took the Premier League title race to the final day twice, and they ended up losing. They ended up winning one Premier League, and they could have easily had another 2, but it was just they're extremely unlucky. That's how dominant that they've been. That's how great that they've been. And I think with Arne Slot coming in, and this is a midfield that's still getting reworked right now, and and then you have an attacking 3 with Luis Diaz and Darwin Nunez that didn't really have the best of Copa Americas. You find yourself in a little tricky point of trying to blend in Salah as well, with the fact that he's one of the more experienced players. I don't see them. Competing for the Premier League. I just think it's unfair expectation for Arne Slot too. This is a not a rebuilding team, but this is a team that's building something new and are currently in the process of that. So they're rebuilding, but they're not starting off from scratch. But with the new manager coming in, it is kind of starting from scratch. And then it leads us to the obvious, main contender based on what we've seen the past couple of years is Arsenal. And the Arsenal, disappointing what happened last season, losing the Premier League on the final day. But we knew for a while now that at least I knew for a while that they weren't going to win the Premier League. They were not going to win the Premier League. It was just obvious. I mean, for me at least, I knew that they were going to slip up, and it came against Aston Villa, and And Arsenal, they haven't done much so far in this transfer window. They permanently signed David Raya, and they brought in Lucas Nygaard to the youth team. But there's not been much done with transfers. They still haven't sealed Calafiori, which I think will be a good signing for them. He's a He's a guy that gives you flexibility. He can play center back. He also has good ability on the ball, so I can see him the way Ben White has been playing right back. He's going to be able to provide that for Mikel Arteta. He's a guy with flexibility. He's very good on the ball. He's a solid defender, and that could be a good signing. And now with Duty and Timber coming, I think that defense, that back is set. I think they're very good defensively. But still, it's like fine margins when you're competing against Manchester City, and are they able to keep up with what Manchester City do game in and game out? Because it's unfair the way Arsenal found themselves in. But Arsenal, they drop a game here and there, and they're already on the back foot. That's just how dominant City is, and the City has so much experience in doing it. I don't know. I think it'll take a drop off from City. In fact, City had a drop off this season, in terms of how much they regularly tally in terms of points, and they still won the Premier League. So for me, I think maybe City does not have another drop off. And then it will take another ridiculous season for Arsenal. Look, Arsenal last season, they had enough points to win the title. They just happened to go against Manchester City. The only problem with Arsenal is they have to go against Manchester City again. That's the thing. I think there's certain times throughout the season that Declan Rice, when they've played Declan Rice alone in there as a 6, they can't progress the ball as well. I don't think Declan Rice is we saw it at the Euros. In terms of his ability to play the ball forward, not just drive with it and dribble in midfield. I think he's comfortable doing that, but his ability to pick out a pass going forward, I think there's times that they have suffered because of that, and that's nitpicking too, honestly. That is nitpicking as well. But I'll say this. I think in that Aston Villa game, I think that's what really, that's where they really struggled in Declan Rice playing that lone role in front of the two center halves, being the main guy to progress the ball. Yeah. Kai Havertz too, he's kind of up and down. He was down earlier in the season and they got off to a slower start. I think if he has another if he has dip in form, I think that is also could be concerning. And Leandro Trossard, he had to come in and save them in a few opportunities. I don't see how Arsenal get over the line. I really don't. Manchester City are just too good. Short break here coming up. When we come back, we'll talk about the U.S. men's Olympic soccer team and whether or not they can medal at these Summer Olympics.
Looking for your daily fix of sports talk without having to pay for it? GSMC Sports Network is available on YouTube. Just search GSMC Sports Network. Get your fix of daily sports talk shows on YouTube, absolutely free. NFL, college football, NBA, MLB, MMA, UFC, fantasy football, and so much more. GSMC Sports Network has shows running all day long, with new sports shows starting every 2 hours. Just like on your favorite cable sports channel, except GSMC Sports Network is absolutely free. Just search GSMC Sports Network on YouTube to catch one of your new favorite shows, like the GSMC College Football Podcast, Chip Shot Football Podcast, Hoops and Heels Women's Sports Podcast, GSMC Basketball Podcast, and so many more. Check it out for yourself. GSMC Sports Network, now available on YouTube absolutely free. Search GSMC Sports Network on YouTube right now.
Before the break, we talked about can any team knock off Manchester City and win the Premier League this upcoming season. We move on to discuss the U.S. men's Olympic soccer team and whether or not that they can medal at these summer's Olympics, because the U.S. men's national team, or their Olympic national team, has qualified for the Olympics. This is the first time that they've been in there since 2008. And you know what's the crazy thing is? In my sports watching lifetime, the one thing that I've never got to witness was the U.S. men's team playing at an Olympic Games. I've never witnessed that. My first major, sporting tournament that I've watched, that I remember watching, was the 2010 FIFA World Cup in South Africa. The first game I remember watching was that opening game between Mexico and South Africa. The U.S. has not qualified since then for the Olympic Games, and we've seen the effects of that with the U.S. not qualifying for 2018 World Cup. Those core players that would have been playing in the Olympic Games and that would have been developing through that, and not just through that, but it would have, making Olympics games shows the quality, and there was just not the quality coming up the ranks at that point in time, and we suffered from it. We suffered from it at the 2018 World Cup. Now the quality is getting much better, and we're able to qualify for this summer's Olympics, and I think this is another run of Olympics that we're going to qualify in for a while, because quality is getting produced now in the American game. There's some young players coming in. We just saw Kevin Sullivan, a 14-year-old, get his debut. So yeah, that's really great to hear. I will say, can they medal at these Olympic Games? I mean, real quick, I'm gonna read out the roster because I think it's I need, you want to know what they are. Patrick Schultz, Gaga Salina, two really good goalkeepers, in my opinion, at this level. Defenders, Maximian Dietz, Nathan Harrell, Miles Robinson, which is one of the overage players, center half, John Tolkien, Caleb Wiley, Walker Zimmerman, another overage player, Gianluca Busio, Benjamin Kremeski, Jack McGlynn, Giorgio Mihailovic, Tanner Tesman, Paxton Erison, Duncan McGuire, Kevin Paredes, Griffin Yo. Obviously, the best U23 players cannot come. We could create a super team in the U.S. Folarin Balogun, Giovanni Reina, Yunus Musa, Ricardo Pepi. I can go on and on. Almost half of our Copa America team is Olympic eligible. But the problem with this is, clubs, they're not going to release their players for most of Copa America and the Olympics. In fact, clubs are probably not going to release their players just for the Olympics in general, because Olympics is not a FIFA-sanctioned tournament, so the clubs have every right to not release a player and not allow them to go. So there is that. I'll say with the team we have here, there's some quality here and there. Gianluca Busio was really big for Venezia, playing in Italian second division. Kevin Paredes, Paxton Erison, Tanner Tesman. These are guys with some serious, some real quality, and they could have potential. I think with the fact that our center back partnership are two overage players, and the fact that Miles Robinson and Walker Zimmerman, these are guys with experience. Walker Zimmerman was part of the starting lineup that we played at the World Cup. Miles Robinson is also a quality player, at least in MLS. So they'll be very, very good. In terms of playing against youth guys, I don't think we'll concede much goals, because I think they have, besides going up against France, I think those are guys that have real ability in terms at this level. But the concerning part of it is, this is not a team that can play free-flowing, out-of-the-back football. Those two are players that are not comfortable on the ball. Giorgio Mihailovic, he's one of the other overage players. I just think, he's meh. I mean, he's not an overage player that will take you over the top. In fact, I don't think we're going to be able to. I don't think we're going to watch the game and really be able to realize that he's much of an overage player. I think he kind of fits to the level of all the players at right now, which, I mean, he's only 25, so he's not old himself. But still, this is not someone that will really take us over the top at these at these Olympic Games. No, he's not. He's a guy with some quality. He has a little bit of ability to move the ball and push it forward in terms of being a little bit creative. He's good on the ball, but he's not a big game changer. I told you about Tanner Tessman, Paxton Aronson. These are guys with real quality. Kevin Paredes as well. Problem is, we have some decent wingers, right? But the number 9, Duncan McGuire, he has no real quality. His back to goal is not that great. He doesn't have technical ability to play in tight spaces. His finishing is okay. There's nothing that he's great at. He's just okay at everything. He has a good work rate, and he'll work hard, and he'll press, and he'll run around and all that. But he won't provide much quality at a center back forward position. And he's the only center forward on this roster. So if he goes down, then we're major trouble at these Olympic Games. I don't know what's the rules of bringing in someone, to replace an injured player. But he's the only number 9 on the roster, the only guy on the roster. And I don't see much of I don't think Griffin Yo or Kevin Paredes or Tessman or Aronson, have that, can play that false 9 sort of role. I mean, maybe Georgia Mihailovic could, just based on, his ability on the ball, but still, that's just way stretching it. I don't know. So that part is concerning. I think overall with this team, there's some good parts of it, there's some bad parts of it. I don't think it's totally awful. But can they win a medal at the Olympics? I think it'll be very difficult. Because look, France, I've been saying this for a while now, but I'm saying it again. Opening game, we take on France in Marseille. It'll be packed to Velodrome. It'll be completely packed as they are the home team. And they're bringing a team with some serious quality. Jean-Philippe Mateta, Michael Olise, Alexander Lacazette. This is a team with some talent. This is a team with some real talent. So what I will say regarding that opening game, brace for impact. Just brace for impact. All fans, don't expect much. And anything we get, be satisfied with anything we get, because it's gonna be bad. We hope not. But France is a team with some real quality. I mean, even them, they couldn't get a majority of their players. They couldn't get a majority of their players, but they're still able to field a really strong squad. Like they could, and some good overage players too, was Jean-Philippe Mateta and Lacazette and Loic Badi. By the way, Loic Badi is only a 24-year-old, but he's a guy with real quality, playing for Sevilla. He's a good center half, so I understand involving him in the squad. Ryan Cherki also, real quality there. So that is my opinion. Them and Argentina, because Argentina also took an extremely loaded squad. They have the likes of Thiago Almeida in there. They have experience with the likes of Nicolas Otamendi. They happen to get a lot of their top U23 guys, and they're also able to get Julian Alvarez. They were able to convince Manchester City to allow him to play in the Olympic Games. So he will be one of the overage players, and he's a guy with some real quality. So that is going to be very interesting to watch. I'm very excited to watch him and Alameda, and there's they are also a gold medal contender alongside France. Spain is also taking a decent squad, not as strong as the squad that they took last Olympic Games, where they basically took, they're literally top guys, because a lot of their top U23 guys were playing already at the a lot of their U23 guys were already playing at the inside La Liga, and there's a rule that Spanish teams have to release their players for Spanish Olympic soccer. That's a La Liga rule, and they were able to build a super team, and they brought in, some good overage players like Mikel Merino, and they were able to convince clubs like Leipzig to bring in Dani Olmo, and they didn't win it all. They ended up finishing second place to Brazil. But it just showed that they were able to bring in a lot of good quality guys, and I think that they'll in this Olympic Games they don't have that sort of players, but they still have the likes of Eric Garcia and Pau Cubarsí, and they brought in some decent guys, and Fernin from Barcelona, and they brought in some decent guys, so there will be a factor there. I think Japan, they always do well in these Olympic sort of formats. They're able to take pretty strong teams of guys that are playing within their domestic league. So, look, can the U.S. medal? Once you get to the semifinals, you find yourself in a position that you only need one game. You need to only win the semifinal or win the third place match. But the problem that the U.S. Olympic soccer team has is that, they're not going to win the group with France in it. I mean, I'm just realistically thinking they're not going to win the group with France in it. And if Argentina end up winning their group, because they're in Group B, and if they end up winning the group with the quality that they have, Argentina and the U.S. find themselves on a collision course to play in that quarterfinal. I think the most realistic point is that's when the U.S. go. I think U.S. will get past New Zealand and Guinea, but going up against Argentina, that's a strong team that they have in terms of Olympic play. I think that's when it goes. So I think it's very unlikely that the U.S. men's Olympic team medals at these Olympics. With the team that we're taking, I think it's not very unlikely, but unlikely. Obviously, something could happen, and maybe Argentina don't win their group, or maybe the U.S. pull it out. They dig in and play for a draw in that opening game, and maybe win on superior goal difference. But win the group on superior goal difference, who knows? But yeah, I think it's unlikely that the U.S. men's Olympic team medals at these summer's Olympics. Short break here coming up, and when we come back, we'll talk about Liverpool.
For the best and latest podcasts available anywhere, go to the podcast app on your cell phone and type in GSMC to access free content-rich podcasts on health and wellness, book reviews, sports, entertainment, relationships, social media, movies, technology, finance, and even weird news. Subscribe and download the GSMC Podcast Network's family of shows, available everywhere podcasts are found.
What are some realistic expectations for Liverpool entering the season? It's a loaded conversation to have because of the fact that this is a team that's been up there the last years or so under Jurgen Klopp, but now this is a team that's with a new manager and in the middle of a recycle. Jurgen Klopp, he was able to start that recycling, especially of the midfield, bringing in the likes of McAllister, Dominic Szoboszlai, Gravenberg. But it was also a team that punched massively above their weight last season and was really hanging on last season when they were in that title race for as long as that they were. A lot to do with the fact that Jurgen Klopp was leaving, and there was that storyline, that added element to their play, but also in the fact that it was just they relied on a lot of last minute goals and equalizers, and there was just that element of hanging on. Their levels were nowhere near the levels of the great Liverpool teams in the past that took City to the final day or that ran away with the Premier League that season. So I think realistic expectation is just to get into the top four. I mean, I don't think it's disappointing of Arne Slot doesn't push Manchester City. I don't expect them to. I think they will have their ups and downs adopting to the new philosophy because, yes, Arne Slot does play an attractive style of football, total sort of style of football, like the Dutch style of football. But it's not exactly like Jurgen Klopp. Jurgen Klopp, they play heavy metal football, they press high, and that's their main form of creativity. There is an element of having, more creativity within this Arne Slot system. That's how they, Feyenoord would play it. It wasn't the extreme press high 99 miles per hour football. This is more possession oriented and being able to break down the defense and also pressing high and winning the ball high and all that. Don't get me wrong, but not to the extent of the gegenpress that we know that we've seen for many years with this Liverpool team under Jurgen Klopp. I think he has a lot of decisions he needs to make. Number one, we've seen the way Trent Alexander-Arnold has been handled with two managers, with Jurgen Klopp and Gareth Southgate. We get to see the viewpoint in how Arne Slot views him. Now, obviously, I expect Arne Slot to view him in the Jurgen Klopp sort of way, that he's a right back and he's a brilliant right back, and will work around his defensive deficiencies. We'll work around it, right? But I still want to see, I still want to see if he does have that full backing for Trent Alexander-Arnold playing that, right back role. The midfield. How does the midfield continue to evolve? Dominic Szoboszlai, he had a very up and down season, a lot of downs. If he's able to take that next level, and if Arne Slot can continue where Jurgen Klopp started and continue to gel this midfield into being able to also progress the ball, but also be able to keep the ball and to work to get McAllister to fit in with Szoboszlai and to have that midfield playing at a top level, because it was you looking at it from objective point of view, it was some good signings and they played some really good football, and Endo came in and it kind of was a revelation for him. So if he's continuing him playing alongside Szoboszlai and McAllister, that's going to be very interesting to watch. And if Arne Slot can get more of a tune out of Gravenberg than what Jurgen Klopp was able to do. This is a 22-year-old. Keep in mind, he did have a disappointing, stint at Bayern. Didn't get off to what we expected him to do. But now at Liverpool, he had his ups and downs last season. Can he get off to a good start? Can Arne Slot fit him into that midfield role and play him with Endo, with McAllister, with Dominic Szoboszlai? Can we see more of that goals that we've seen from Dominic Szoboszlai in the past? Can he show his capacity to get goals and he can continue to gel that midfield? And then the front three, it's just him being able to balance Mohamed Salah. He has some up and downs last season. He had a good start to the season, but dwindled through the end of the last season. If he's able to blend in Salah's experience and ability with the likes of Luis Diaz, Diogo Jota, Darwin Nunez, and how can he fix this issue that Darwin Nunez has of not being efficient enough in front of goal? How can Arne Slot work around that? If this is the thing, Darwin Nunez can't get coached how to finish. So this is the thing Darwin Nunez needs to solve, and it's important because he can be a big factor for this Liverpool team. And this is Darwin Nunez and Luis Diaz that are coming off too. Rather, Darwin Nunez had a good start to the Copa America, but as the quarterfinals came, there was still a lot of opportunities that he was missing. Darwin Nunez and Luis Diaz, these are two players that are coming off not the best of Copa Americas. Their teams were able to do good and reaching the semifinal and final, but individually, not to the like Darwin Núñez. I think that's a little harsh in the fact that he had a really good group stages, but in that Brazil game and in that Colombia game, he was not good enough, and there was multiple opportunities like Colombia game that he missed, and it was like kind of showing the same bad signs that he had at Liverpool. So can Arne Slot, get those players playing at those sort of levels? Can he fit in Diego Jota in as well? There's a lot of questions that Arne Slot is gonna have to answer throughout the season. There's no arguing that, and I'm fascinated. I'm fascinated to see how this works, and I think expecting similar levels from what we saw from Jurgen Klopp's Liverpool, I think is very, very unfair. Short break here coming up. When we come back, we'll react to some of the top headlines going on in the football world. Final topic coming up, and that is some of the top headlines going on in the soccer world. Not much dropping today. N'Golo Kante, he has been linked with West Ham. In fact, West Ham have approached Al Ittihad to ask about N'Golo Kante and to try to lure him to West Ham. Al Ittihad's current position is that they have no intention to sell N'Golo Kante, and they're gonna keep him. But West Ham have made a bid for about £20 million, and it's interesting. West Ham, it's clear that they're very interested in him, and it will cost them about £20 million. But West Ham is deciding whether they want to do a formal bid. They know that wages can be potentially difficult with the fact that he has 2 years left on his contract. But N'Golo Kante, he came off an amazing European Championship, playing in all 6 games, was man in the match, I think, in multiple games. I believe so. But still, he was a 9 out of 10 game in, game out. That's just who he is. He covers the entire field, 70% of the earth is covered in water. The other 30% is covered by N'Golo Kante. That's what he is. Absolute brilliant player, absolute top professional. I mean, who wouldn't want him? Who would not want him? I think this is an N'Golo Kante that still has the ability to play at a top level club. The way that he performed at the European Championship, I still think he has that ability to play at a top level club. So, yeah, why not? Why not? But it's up to whether or not he wants to go back. And it's also up to Al Ittihad if they're willing to sell him. I talked about Morata yesterday leaving Atletico to join AC Milan. Cesc Fabregas has been appointed as the head coach of Como after they've been promoted to Serie A. UEFA are set to look into the Gibraltar chant at the Spain European Championship celebrations. Among the 11 proposed World Cup 2030 venues, the Barcelona and Real Madrid stadiums happen to be venues. This is a tournament that's gonna be played in this is Spain's 11 proposed 2030 World Cup stadiums. There's also, Portugal and Morocco will also be involved. Obviously, there was the second and third games being held in Argentina, Paraguay. I think Argentina, Paraguay, Uruguay getting the first 3 games, and then the rest of the tournament being hosted in Morocco, Portugal, and Spain, which is insane and weird and disgusting to me. But yeah, it won't be. We'll see those stadiums, but that's 6 years from now. There's the World Cup.
There's nothing scheduled today.
There's the World Cup coming in the U.S. first. That will be that's gonna be great to watch. There was this one last thing that I wanted to discuss, but I don't see it. I will answer these questions though. What are your predictions for the top of the table and for teams that are going to get relegated to the Premier League 2 and teams that are going to get promoted from the Premier League to teams that are going to get promoted to the Premier League? Honestly, amongst the championship teams, I don't know much. I think Burnley will have enough to go back up just based on the quality that they have. I think they'll have enough quality to get back up there, I don't see Luton getting back up, and it's escaping my mind the other team that got relegated. But I will say, in terms of top of the table, I think City will win it again. I think the other teams that will reach that will be top 4 will be Arsenal. So City, Arsenal. I think Chelsea will get back into the top 4. Even with the new manager coming in. And then Liverpool and Chelsea. Manchester City, Arsenal, Liverpool, Chelsea, that'll be my predictions for the top 4. I think City will win it. And in terms of relegation, I think Leicester, they're going to have enough about them to stay up. I think they're a Premier League team. So yeah, I think they'll have enough for them to stay up. Oh yeah, Sheffield United was the other team that got relegated. Yeah, forget about it. They're not coming back up. I think Ipswich. I don't think they will have really the quality to stay up. I think Everton could be in danger. I think Everton can be in danger. I think they have enough about them though. But I think Ipswich will go down, and then maybe Southampton go back down as well. I don't know. It's hard to say. I think in Nottingham Forest are going to go down. Nottingham Forest, Southampton, Ipswich. That will be my prediction as of right now. But that could change. I think Brentford and Wolves have enough about them to stay up. And then I think Leicester will stay up as well. So yeah, that will probably be my prediction in terms of going down. Going back up, I couldn't really tell you. I don't have much knowledge of the championship teams, and it's kind of hard to predict. If you're not a person that watches the championship game in, game out, it's kind of hard to predict who will come back up to the Premier League. Tyler Adams, he's been ruled out for a period, the start of the Premier League season, after re-injuring his back in the Copa America campaign. He had to undergo back surgery that will rule him out at the start of the season. We saw the injuries that ravaged him throughout last season. That's very disappointing for Tyler Adams, and I think that's the opposite of the kind of starter that he needed. I think he needed to get off to a great start to continue to build within the Bournemouth system. And we haven't seen him play much for Bournemouth because of the injuries. So yeah, I think that's some big news and really disappointing, not just for Tyler Adams, but also the U.S. men's national team and all the fans, because we want Tyler Adams playing at the top level to continue to building himself, because playing on the field does not help him at all. Danny Olmo, he was also in some rumors that I saw. He's a player with real good quality, and I think him being at 26 this is a good time for him to take that next step into his career. And I think Barcelona could be a very, very good move for him as they're ready to prepare an offer for Dani Olmo. And I think it's great for him. I think he has a good capacity to get into the box and score goals. He's really tidy and comfortable on the ball. He's a guy with real quality, and that could have made this move a whole long time ago. But now I think it's perfect opportunity. Coming off these strong Euros, he gives you something a little bit different. I think he's a really good player. But yeah, that's the end of that. Thank you guys for tuning into the GSMC Soccer Podcast presented by the GSMC Sports Network. Your support means a lot to us, so please remember to subscribe to the show and leave a positive review. It really does make a difference. We also invite you to follow us on Facebook, Twitter, TikTok, and Instagram for more content and updates. So yes, thank you guys, and have a wonderful day.
I don't wanna go to